Your vote matters. A strong democracy begins with responsible voting. आपका वोट इंपॉर्टेंट है. एक स्ट्रॉन्ग डेमोक्रेसी की शुरुआत होती है रेस्पॉन्सिबल वोटिंग से.
चलो मोदी जी हट गए. 2029 India Alliance comes to power. What are we doing after that? Right? What do we need to change? It's not like Modi ji आने के पहले सब ठीक ठाक चल रहा था. It's not like the country was perfect before Modi ji. We make that mistake, right? It's the same mistake in some ways Nehru made, right? In discovery of India. And I say this very often, ki Nehru's discovery of India presumes that India before the British was perfect. That caste was not a problem, patriarchy was not a problem, religious differences and religious divides were not a problem. It comes from a activist POV also. वो बोलना चाहते थे कि the British are the sole problem in the country and so overthrowing them is a priority. As a political strategy, perhaps good. But that's the same logic the BJP now uses. India was great before the British and the Muslims. They've just shifted the clock a few hundred years back, right? They're not reinventing the wheel. We have to stop imagining the BJP to be, again, the BJP considers itself to be a revolutionary force. But it's not really that revolutionary. They're using the same rule book and changing the parameters a little bit. It's like वो कट कॉपी पेस्ट कर दिया, मतलब चैट जीपीटी से थोड़ा सा बदल दिया और कह दिया कि m dash आप नहीं लगाएंगे क्योंकि m dash से पता चलता है चैट जीपीटी है. That's what the BJP is doing, right? They're taking the same model and they're turning it on its head. So those solutions that we are being prevented from finding or looking forward towards.
Personal question. You have a thorough understanding of political philosophy. You did acknowledge that political imagination is what we are lacking. Why do you want to limit yourself being a spokesperson for a party? Why don't you be that person who does the reimagination for us?
So I don't think those are mutually exclusive. I think I'm very grateful to be spokesperson. नहीं तो ऐसी बातचीत हमें करने नहीं मिलती. And in some ways, right, I think being a party spokesperson, one, allows you to be in very different rooms every day. That this work of thinking can't be done in isolation. I'm not somebody who likes to sort of sit in one room and like keep doing stuff. A few days ago I was in Nashik because we had our Akrosh Morcha on farmers issues. Day before that I was at an OBC meeting about Maratha reservation and its impact on OBC quotas. A day before that I was in Bhusawal talking about the banana crisis because crops have been destroyed by unseasonal rainfall. And these are ways in which you really sort of have to learn more about what you're talking about before you start talking about.
One very interesting thing I noted when you were explaining these issues is that the youth are getting increasingly political. Sure, they're being aware, but they're only being aware of the national level issues. But then the local level issues कोई बात ही नहीं करता.
तो वही प्रॉब्लम है ना. तो मेरा भी कभी-कभी ऐसी प्रॉब्लम हो जाता है कि हम नेशनल स्पोक्सपर्सन हैं. So I have to keep talking about national issues. The only thing that I've said for 5 years before coming on to national issues is focus on the local. कि पहले आप आपके कॉर्पोरेटर को जानो, आपके पंचायत समिति को जानो, चलो आपके एमएलए तक को जानो, चीफ मिनिस्टर छोड़ दो, प्रधानमंत्री छोड़ दो, एमपी छोड़ दो, right? That's also a factor of algorithms and the way in which we're consuming information. You're on Instagram, I'm on Instagram, you're on Instagram. Most people watching this will find us through Instagram. The more views you have, the more likely you are to be recommended to somebody. The natural corollary to that is that you will have more views on something that is relevant to more people. National mudda becomes relevant to the whole country. Why does somebody sitting in Punjab want to worry about what is happening to banana farmers in Jalgaon? They don't care, right? वो in fact बोलेंगे कि अरे ये जलगांव का स्टोरी आ रहा है, मेरे पंजाब का स्टोरी क्यों नहीं आ रहा है? The same thing happens,
Same when we go through your profile also. Some stories, national, and some stories are Nashik se hai, Maharashtra se.
And that's the blend that you have to find, right? That you keep that audience engaged and then you try to sort of sensitize that audience to newer perspectives. But again, the solution to this problem is not going to come through the sources of information and knowledge sharing that we currently have. Today, the reality is we spend most of our time on the internet. I know how to tap into a national audience, global audience even, right? Young people today are not talking to only people in India. They're talking to people across the world. They're sharing memes. They're creating sort of subcultures. वो कौन सा Italian tra-la-la-la trend has become a trend here? किसको था बचा? Mummy, I speak Italian means I speak Italian brain rot. Like, what world are we living in today, right? So in such a world where we are so globally connected, we have to find ways of being locally connected. What are those ways? I don't know.
An extended critique of that, as Indians living in India, at least in the sober circles or at least the educated English speaking circles, more people know about Charlie Kirk and Ben Shapiro than.
Nay, but I'll correct you there. It's not just about sober circles or people living in privileged circles. You know, I was in Karanja, which is in Yavatmal Washim district. It's a very backward part of the state. It's been systematically neglected by various governments, including, I will admit, our own. We had a women's rally over there and a sabha. 50% of middle-aged women in Karanja were on YouTube. YouTube चला रहे थे. Imagine, I mean, this is political awareness that would not have existed a few decades ago. So I'm not ever saying that anybody knowing about Charlie Kirk or the world is a problem.
It's not a problem.
Or a bad thing, right? That the woman in Karanja now knows more maybe about just Maharashtra because she's consuming content mainly in Marathi than she did before, right? Maybe some of that content is being translated into English, or English content is being translated into Marathi and she's consuming some of it. Maybe she's chanced upon BBC Marathi where I gave an interview in Marathi about being queer and she's suddenly finding out what being queer means, right? So the expansive possibilities of this are very exciting to me. I mean, we've forgotten to be excited by the internet and the possibilities it unlocks. But the counter that needs to be suggested is कि यार नोएडा वालों का स्लैक चैनल कब बनने वाला है, या सेक्टर 18 का स्लैक चैनल कब बनने वाला है कि आप बोल सको कि यार हम सब सेक्टर 18 में रहते हैं. The only alternative we found is, God forbid, a WhatsApp group for your RWA. That's the closest we come to local community.
I mean, to be fair, Reddit is doing a good job.
But everyone's not on Reddit. No?
Yeah.
You were talking about access to the internet everywhere. I just wanted to know about Maharashtra. I read a couple of news articles, and this news has been there since 2001, apparently. There are a lot of hysterectomies for.
For farm laborers, particularly in sugarcane plantations. It's a
Yes.
very big problem. Some of the most incredible artists. The last year, the India Art Fair Artists in Residence did an incredible project on this. And I'm completely forgetting her name, but I will let you know in the comments or in some sort of way that can be put over here. But again, right, it's a big challenge. Why is it happening?
Is this feminism?
You know, that's, no, we'll stop it there. But no, it's not, because, you know, crazy part is women are getting hysterectomies for two reasons, right? Of course, one is because they can't afford to get a period. It's 5 days of work gone, 5 days of productive labor gone, particularly in the middle of harvest season, right? So, got around 40 days to make your money, 60 days to make your money, and very often for some of them, it's make your money for the whole year, right? Because you're on a sugarcane sort of plantation, other crops don't require that sort of intense harvesting. Some of you are going to get jobs on sugarcane, some of you are not going to get jobs on other crops, etc., etc. So this is your time to earn for the whole year, right? So 5 days is too much to waste, and so they get a hysterectomy. For the other side of that, and the more sort of difficult side of that, is that they get hysterectomies because they simply don't want to give birth to more children. And they get these in secret, so their husbands don't know, right? It's how you've seen a lot of sort of vasectomies or tubectomies also taking place.
Lack of birth control awareness.
Or rather, sexual violence, right? Perpetuated by men who say that I want you to have more children. And the woman is like, I don't want to have more children because how am I going to take care of them? And
Marital, can't say the word, but yeah.
So this is a bigger crisis. And for some of these things, politics can be one way of making a difference, but it can't be the only way. And for me, you know, this question about local communities and even your question about hysterectomies becomes important because in some ways the politician is supposed to be that nodal point who can have these difficult conversations in a community, who can make this change possible. Abhi ke liye, and populist politics across the board, including populist politics that might be perpetuated by my party or by those who are in opposition from the to the BJP, is a bad thing. Because we assume that politicians should respond to what voters want, not that politicians should also engage in a transformational process to ensure that voters can sometimes be uplifted or emancipated from their own prejudices, from their own sort of problems, right? And that's where the work is. one of the biggest challenges we have today is that every single political party in this country has given up on the urban voter. बोल देते कि शहरों में रह रहे हो ना आप, बीजेपी के लिए वोट दोगे. To their credit, AAP was the first party that came in and said, no, we'll challenge the BJP in a city. Most other parties, mine including, have challenged the BJP in rural areas because farmers' distress is a real concern. In a city, we'll be like, अच्छा दलित एरिया में या मुसलमान एरिया में हम जीत सकते हैं. You've given up on a sort of upper caste population. You've given up on a Savarna population that is upper class. You can't give up. You can critique, sure, but you can't give your political party boss, you can't give up to reform them. Harder task. Winning that seat might take 30 years. But if you give up on that seat entirely, then you're compromising the very fundamental aspect of what it means to do politics, which is to bring about change.
Why is it that the general sentiment is that if you are a supporter of Congress or any opposing party, you are anti-national? Go to Pakistan. Why does that happen?
You know, urban Naxal, anti-national, these are all now badges of honor. We should all wear them as badges of honor. Because that just means you're anti-BJP. But it's sad because you've reduced nationalism to something so petty that now it doesn't inspire the same level of pride in a country that it used to inspire. Right?
We end up doing is the offense is the best defense. So rather than them labeling us anti-national, say you want a Hindu Rashtra, you want to change the core of the constitution, you are the real. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, that's
Because every single citizen standing up for transparency, for accountability is a true देशभक्त. आप ही anti-national हो. आप इस देश के खिलाफ जा रहे हो, देश के संविधान के खिलाफ जा रहे हो, आपको संविधान बदलना है, आपने बोल दिया संविधान बदलना है. आप ही एंटी नेशनल हो और कोई एंटी नेशनल हो कैसे सकता है?
question.
Who's got an